going to look at some actual examples of what we just discussed. So to begin, when it comes to designing policies, maximum cash, maximum flexibility, we're going to check off all the areas. Policy design, we're going to go through the premium, PUA, MEC limit. Company selection, we're going to show a flexible one here with one of the big four, and then setting the minimums and maximums. How do I commit to the minimum? We're going to show that first with the ability to add more. We'll show what it looks like if I max it out, if I throw in different amounts, so we can actually see how these policies work, which mostly is going to focus on this area with the three examples, the $1,500, $5,000, and $20,000 minimum premium. So let's get into it. All right, so what we're going to begin with is a 30-year-old male with a policy designed where I've got a capacity or the ability to contribute up to $15,000 per year. So the first thing we want to do is set the policy up properly. So when we look at the actual design here, what I want to do is set the minimum premium at $1,500 and set the MEC limit at $15,000. So let's bump that up a little bit here. And just zoom through this part. Okay, so here, what we've got, let's make this a little bit bigger. Is that screen size, Jada? Beautiful. Thank you. So a couple things here on our policy design. That's what I want to look at. Remember the check marks, right? First, policy design, premium, PUA rider, MEC limit. First question is, where is my base premium? Right here, we've got it at $1,500. It also buys me a whole life policy of this $122,000. This is a 30-year-old male. Next thing, MEC limit. Where is that? It's down here under the 7-pay premium. Just to write it out here, because I know that font is small, it's about $15K. Now again, what has a direct relationship to the $15K MEC limit? How did we get that? The death benefit. That's the measuring stick the IRS uses to determine, is the policy life insurance or a MEC, a taxable investment in their eyes. So why we have this oddball death benefit at $590,000 is for a 30-year-old male, that's how much life insurance benefit he needs for $15,000 in MEC space. So what this example is going to show here is as follows. When I look at the actual funding, age 30, base premium, $1,500 per year. That's the minimum premium. Now, if we look at the policy, we do have a term rider attached here. The cost of the term rider is disclosed down here, and this is small. I'm just going to write it out. It's about $178 for the first year. Now, when we look at our net premium or net after-tax outlay, this would show the true out-of-pocket by the policyholder, the 30-year-old male here. You see it's $1,750. That's not $1,500, obviously. So why it's not is what we're covering here with the $1,750 is the minimum premium of $1,500, the term rider, and then the excess is going into PUAs, just a scheduled PUA contribution, which does get me a little bit of whole life benefit, but really we're committing to a number very close to the minimum here. We round it off. So if I pay in just the minimum, cash values do not look good at all. The purpose of this particular example really is to demonstrate how do I start with just the minimum, say I just want to pay the minimum in the first year or the first couple of years, and then add more to it at leisure. Let's demonstrate. So what we're going to do is go into the case design. We're going to throw some more money into the account. So we've got scheduled PUAs. Now we're going to look at unscheduled PUAs. So what we'll do here is let's throw in, let's max it out. We're going to throw in up to the MEC limit. That'd be $15,000 per year. So what we want to do Remember, we're already contributing $17.50, and unscheduled PUAs will be on top of that. So if we throw in $13,250 here, we can specify 1 through max, which will assume we just keep paying into it forever. Well, let's stop the payments here very early, just to demonstrate. That screen's small there, right? Yeah, I'll use this one. Okay, so what we've got here, when we look at the breakdown as far as where the money's going, that's what I want to be aware of as a policyholder. Here's an account where literally I committed to the minimum, that $1,500 and $250, literally the scheduled yearly amount, and I can even break this up over 12 months if I wanted to, is $1,750. But again, I've got the ability to add more. If I don't add more, it is critical to look at the example we just saw. It doesn't look great at all in terms of cash value, but I do have the death benefit. Now, here, PUAs unscheduled. We're just illustrating what it would look like if I added up to my MEC limit, so another $13,250 per year. A couple things to validate. My death benefit has not changed, so my MEC limit has not changed. It's the same $15K. The death benefit's the same $590,000. So what we've got on this example was the exact same policy. Let's say the individual planned just the minimum. Maybe his plan was to max fund it for 5 years or whatever it might be, but he stopped. He stopped because he can, or he didn't have to keep paying in money. You can, and the funding can also vary. We're going to look at that on another example here shortly. But here, total of 15 going in. So again, I started to the minimum. I only got the bill for $1,750 per year. Cumulative outlay tallies all contributions. 15 over 4 years is $60,000. That's my crossover point here. Very strong. After that, cash value continues to grow, which is great. Another thing to look at here, let's make a quick tweak with the design and also analyze the guaranteed value. So we're going to stop the funding after 5 years. I'm going to deliberately drop the death benefit to ensure my guaranteed values look stronger, which this is all actual stuff we can do. We're using the company's direct software, as we always do, which we would not recommend looking at illustrations from third-party softwares, as it doesn't always illustrate accurate figures. Sometimes it does. But these are all direct. So the guaranteed values, this is always good to look at. So this is obviously displaying an absolute worst-case scenario of what the account would look like with the same 15 for 5 years that we looked at. So over 5 years, I've paid in how much money? $15,000 times 5 years, $75,000. Okay. Off of the guarantees, what's my break-even point? Between years 5 and 6. Year 6, I've got $76,231. And this assumed I didn't pay anything in above and beyond the 75. Guarantees keep going up. A policy that is not designed for optimum performance, if I'm not implementing that 10/90 split and maximizing the cash value, we haven't ever seen a guaranteed cash value break-even point that early unless the design's really optimized. Current values, middle-of-the-road values look even better. So before we make any other adjustments, actually, let's progress on to the next one. We'll make some adjustments with this. So here, we're going to look at the same 30-year-old male, second best class. Not going to show ultra preferred, nothing like that. $5,000 minimum premium, $50,000 MEC limit. And we're going to begin with just looking at the minimum. So a couple things here. When I look at my base premium, what do I have? $5,000. Okay, that's the underlying insurance-based premium. With this product, the first year, that does not show up in cash value. The company's overcharging me for the death benefit, the cost of insurance. However, or actually before we look at however, let's look at the death benefit. Oddball number, $1,940,000 for a 30-year-old male. Why it's at that particular figure? So again, here's my MEC limit, $50,000. So what this tells me is for a 30-year-old male, $1,940,000 gives him $50,110 in MEC space. Which means, in this example, we see this in a lot of literature and books out there, minimum death benefit based off of the MEC limit I want, this is it. If I want the option to pay in $50K per year, well, that 1.94 is the minimum amount of insurance I can get to be able to obtain that $50,000 MEC limit. This way the IRS, by their standards, will allow me to pay in that much. Anything above that would require a higher death benefit or would trigger a MEC. That's per year with the MEC limit. So let's look at this. The 5K premium bought me $427,000 in actual whole life insurance. What's important to note about that is that would get a 30-year-old male about $13,000 in MEC space. How we got it up to 50 is with this guy. This is our term rider. Here's the cost of the term down here, about $574 initially. And then these are always going to be different based off of everyone's individual scenario or situation. So we've got $1,000 going into our PUA rider, of which $574 covers the term. The rest goes into cash value, and buys us a little bit of whole life death benefit. So this example, like the last, shows a scheduled payment, a minimum commitment of $6,000 per year. Or if we do it monthly, it's $500 a month. That's what I'm scheduling, that's what I'm committing to, with the ability to add more. So if I look at just the 6, not that attractive in the sense that by year 15, I've paid in $90,000 and I've got $78,900 negative return, negative cash value relative to what I've paid in. Still have the $1.9 million death benefit. Cash value doesn't look good because I'm only paying in the minimum, and I've got this big term rider that's creating extra drag. If I don't fund it up to the MEC limit or pay in extra dollars, I definitely want to make sure I cut that term rider earlier than later. So let's look at some funding here. And what we'll do on the unscheduled PUAs, since we can customize this however we want, and a consumer can dump in money in different ways as well, let's check out the design. Let's say the first year, I don't add anything in there. Second year, I throw in another $24,000. We're doing that because we're already paying in 6. This will give us clean numbers. Let's say the following is only 14. And then we'll 10x it at 44. Point to this is we're going to show some wacky funding to really demonstrate that we can do that. And we can keep going with the funding here as far as varying it every year. So, same thing where I'm committing to the $6,000, and we're going to assume I only paid the $6,000 in 1 year. Maybe my intention was to add more, but life happened and I didn't. There's my cash value, $580. Year 2, I pay in 30, so the 5 plus the term cost, the total of 6, and then we throw in extra money for a net of 30K. Just about all of it shows up, minus about $700. Year 2, paying the same, year 2 we pay in 20, and it grows by just about 20. I get that amount back. Next year I pay in 50, and I get more than 50 back, accelerating the growth, picking up the pace. And we can keep varying the funding each year thereafter to demonstrate adding more money into PUAs accelerates the cash buildup. I see an earlier break-even point. I've got access to more liquidity or equity, cash value, however we want to phrase it. But really, here's what I want to look at here. Cumulative net outlay. Let's track my break-even. By year 6, so this is kind of sporadic funding and then the minimum thereafter. By year 6, I've paid in 162. I've got 163. Now what's definitely true here is the more I add in, the earlier it's going to break even, obviously. So if we do this, we're going to do the same thing we did in the last example. And we're going to get rid of that mech. There we go. Perfect. What we won't do here, let's not do the reduced paid up. Death benefit is important to many individuals. So here we're going to demonstrate keeping the death benefit up. I'm not going to implement the reduced paid up and just drop the death benefit to maximize the cash value. No, I'm going to keep the option to keep paying. So again, $5K minimum base premium, $1,000 to cover the term rider and PUA. Let's take a look. So what we've got here, a policy where I committed to the minimum, but I max funded it. And again, it could have been 10 a year. We can mix it up. The reason we've got 50 here is that's my mech limit, and we committed to 5. So we're designing it with the ability to add this much, not the commitment. Crossover point between years 3 and 4. High cash value. Nothing thereafter. I can pay more if I want. We do not cut the death benefit. We're going to scroll down here. Cash value continues to grow. Now eventually, this death benefit will go up. That death benefit is a combination of whole life and term insurance, which is right here. Here's my term rider decreasing over time. We have to go to the next page. All right. Man, this thing's touchy today. So here we go. It takes a while, but this is assuming this 30-year-old paid in $50,000 for 5 years and never a penny thereafter. The likelihood of him continuing to contribute is high. I mean, why wouldn't you if you have the funds? But eventually what happens is that term rider does decrease. And if I wanted to improve cash, I could have just cut the term rider after the 7th year or any time after year 7. But here it naturally expired, so this is the term. Cash keeps going up. Death benefits on the right. Climbs up. Over $2 million when he's in his mid-80s. Continues to climb. All right, let's look at one more example here. Here we're going to look at the same 30-year-old male, but we're going to show a $20,000 minimum premium and the ability or mech limit of $200,000. And all of these from a ratio, from a concept standpoint, are the same thing. Doesn't matter if the ratios are the same, you're going to see similar results from a break-even point and everything, really. So what we've got here, same 30-year-old male. See if we can fit this here. Beautiful. $20K minimum premium. Big term rider here, similar to the last examples. There's the cost of the term, about $2,300 for the year. So what we did is we scheduled 22.5. What we're doing is committing to the minimum 20,000 and then throwing another 2,500 at the account, mainly to satisfy the 2,300 term cost, and then the excess funds are going into PUAs. That's what's going on. Oddball death benefit, $7,760,000, which gets me a mech limit of almost exactly $200,000. I know that's small. The exact number is $200,440.80. So we're squeezing again the death benefit down. So I've got the ability or MEC limit of $200,000. That's how much I've got the option to pay in. And as long as I have this term rider attached to the account, the company will still allow me to pay up to the 200 in PUAs. The policy design and the proper riders are critical here in understanding the contract language. Okay. So again, like the $1,500 base, like the $5,000 base premium, committing to just the minimum. By year 15, I've paid in $337,000 and I've got $297,000. Not attractive. The death benefit, I've got the coverage there, I'm protected, but from a cash accumulation standpoint, not attractive. 15 years and I still have a negative equity, negative cash value relative to what I've paid in. So let's design this. We can make the design whatever we want. We can show oddball contributions. We can show a total of 100 a year and eventually getting up to 200. Let's show that real quick actually. And then we'll show a max fund. So we've got 22.5. That means we want another 77.5. Is here we're going to show what we'll refer to as a 50% fund policy. All right, so what that means, this looks good. Make one tweak here actually. Let's stop the funding after 10 years. So the 50% fund, what that means is here's a policy where we built in the ability, we built in the option to pay in $200,000 per year. That's how much I've got the opportunity or ability to. My minimum is $20,000, is $22,500 with the initial term rider costs and all that stuff. But let's assume I built in the option to pay $200,000, but I only hit $100,000. So I overshot it by about 50%. I should say undershot my contributions by about 50% of my target. What I want to look at here, this is good to see up front, because if I underfund something, I'm not going to see that year 3 or 4 break-even point. Minimum premium, scheduled PUA contribution, which covers the term, and the rest we see here unscheduled, which means I can throw it in at leisure. If it's a different company, maybe it's once a year. Again, understand the company flexibility features and such. All right. So we're going to show 100 for 10 years. We can keep going much longer here. Main point. Let's track the performance and see what the policy looks like where I'm not optimizing it. So if I'm practicing IBC and I'm going to borrow from this and repay with extra PUA payments or extra interest, this is great because I've got the capacity to put it up to another $100,000 a year on top of my current $100,000. So I'm building in that extra window room there. Make that policy efficient. I don't have to keep on opening new ones. Right, JD, you want one big one or a million small ones? One big one. No, it depends on your situation. All right, so we've got 100,000 going in. Here's my cash. By year 5, I've paid in 500. By year 5, I've got 496. So this is not an optimal fund. Still performs strong. Granted, it's a 30-year-old male. However, it'd be similar for anyone any age if the ratios are the same, or very similar, I should say. By year 6, I'm positive. Year 10, I've paid in $1 million. Got $1 million plus another 130,000. Good example to see, regardless of how much funding I'm looking to pay into a policy. Now, let's show a max funded policy. 177.5. We're going to show the 200 total going in, and let's stop it after 5 years, like that $1,500 base example. And again, we're committing to the minimum. That's why we've got the extra funds illustrated as unscheduled. We'll assume this individual does not want a bill to come in the mail for $200,000 every year. So same thing, you see the $200,000 per year paid into the account, into the life insurance policy. Net after tax outlay, cumulative outlay shows a total of $1 million going into the policy. Your cash value break-even point between years 3 and 4. By year 4, I hit 809, where I've paid in 800. Now, this will always look good. What I want to look at here really are the guaranteed values. Let's see what these look like. So here, by year 5, I've paid in $1 million. I've got $997,000. Very close to the break-even point. That's the guarantees. Current, intermediate. Main point to all of this, we're designing a policy where whatever my contribution range is, I can commit to the minimum and build in that ability to add more at my leisure. And this really demonstrates, hey, if I fund it with minimum, middle of the road samples, max fund, whatever it might be, I see how it performs. Really what you want to do, we do this with everyone we work with, is track the performance as the years go by. If I pay in more or less than anticipated, how does that impact my actual values? When dividend rates and other things are adjusted in the industry, how does that impact my actual values? Keep your finger on the pulse of the insurance company we select, the industry, the policy, my situation, and then everything else flows smoothly. I'm kept up to speed and I don't forget the important details, which happens, especially if we're not in the industry. I'm going to stop rambling. I hope this video was helpful. We'll talk to you in the future.